Hello again. Well, in the video that I just shot, I was talking about uh, engine swaps and if they are worth it or not. So I just wanted to add a few things. Before you consider doing a swap, just think about that. Is your engine, the engine that's on your car, is it that bad? What don't you like about it? It's the power, it's the torque, it's the consumption, it's the fact that it's overheating every freaking time like mine did. Or is it something that you can work with, that you can overhaul and then just make it like new? If the answer is yes, you have a decent engine and you can work with it and you can live with it and you can overhaul it, then do that instead of swapping engines. Mine was the 2.5 VM engine turbo diesel, which was a disaster. I actually had no problems going up hills, but the minute I took it out on the road, which is where I drove the car most, it overheated like hell, and no matter what I did, there was no change. So I decided on the swap. The second thing, bodywork. Before you start doing the swap, just make sure your chassis and the body of the car is okay. Fix that first. You don't want to swap the engine and then Fred Flintstone your way up the highway. Mine was a disaster again. A lot of rust. It looked good. I had no idea that it was that rusted, but once I got it into the shop and we started dismantling things on it, it was a disaster. So we had to replace the entire floor panels and the trunk, the all the metal there, and many other places. So I could have built a miniature XJ with all the metal that I used in fixing this one. But once I started on that way, on that road, well, then I had no choice. And then there's the swap itself. Like, make sure that you have everything that you need. Put everything down on paper first, because it's not just the engine. It's a lot of other components. Everything is connected to everything. So if you buy, well, at least the one good thing that I did was I bought the whole car, not just the engine and then the ECU separately and everything else. I found the car, I bought it completely. It was not the best engine on it, but nothing that was too bad. Use everything that you can use from that one. Don't waste time after that. You discover that you need some part and you have to start going to junkyards and ordering online or do whatever. Just make sure that you have everything. New engine in a car, not brand new, but another type of engine in a car, and especially a more powerful one with a lot of torque, bigger one that will present a lot of issues like space. What do you want to keep on it? If you want to keep everything like air condition, like I did, well then you will be presented with a space issue, because the engine compartment on the XJ is relatively small for the M57 that I used. So the power steering pump, for example, I had to ditch it and I used the Volkswagen one. It's smaller, but that meant that I needed to install it with using a few shims so it can align perfectly with the rest of the pulleys. Okay, well then the engine set lower, because usually when other people do this swap, they just remove the AC and then they move the alternator on the other side. give them a little bit more room. They can sometimes they move the turbocharger somewhere higher, so engine sits a little bit high in the compartment. Mine didn't, and as I said in other of my videos, oil pan was touching in the front drive shaft when I was going over bumps, and I managed to crack it. So we had to cut it, just to reshape it, just to make more room for it there. Like I said, more powerful engine, it heats up, you need better cooling, so think about upgrading your radiator. Well, more powerful engine means, well, because the car doesn't need only to go fast, but it needs to stop fast, so think about upgrading your brakes. I went for rear axle, just changed the entire rear axle with one from Ford Explorer. It already had disc brakes on it. I just changed the disc brakes, and brake pads and everything is new on it. If you have a lifted car like I do, and it's not a huge lift, it's just a 3-inch lift, which is decent, yeah, then you may have to consider cutting a little bit if you want to put bigger tires. Mine are 33s on 16 rims. You have to trim a little bit your side panels out also. But if you lift your car, and if you're not using like and if you don't want to have any vibrations when you're driving it, although for the 3-inch lift don't really have that, but anyway, if you want to, then you need to consider a drop kit for the transfer case. You may want to consider a long arm kit and some relocators for the rear springs, just to give you a little bit more comfort when you're driving the car, when you're going over bumps. Plus, if you're installing a long arm kit for the front, it will allow you just to push a little bit forward the front axle, which will actually give you a little bit more clearance here, and then your wheel won't touch anything when you're turning hard. There are a lot of things, and I cannot think of all of them here, but like I said, it's just snowballing. Once you start doing this, it's just a continuous process. Make sure that when you're buying your one other thing, you have to decide if you want to keep your gearbox or the XJ gearbox, or use the BMW gearbox, either manual or automatic or whatever. Because if you want to keep the XJ gearbox, then you need an adapter flange. If you can find it, I think you can find it easier for other types of cars or for other types of engines, but for the M57 to the XJ gearbox, I don't know if you can find online kits like just to buy. I don't know how expensive they are. If you can find it and you can afford it, very well. Then if you want to do it yourself or find somebody else to do it, just make sure that they're doing a good job, because I had to return mine, and then my friend and I he just made it himself. If you're using the BMW gearbox, well, then you need another adapter for the transfer case, from the gearbox to the transfer case, because the transfer case will still be the same from the Jeep, and that presents other problems. And another problem that the BMW gearbox would have presented, and I didn't like it, was I would have had to cut the central console, just to make room for the shifter, because obviously it will not be in the same place as the Jeeps. So I decided to keep this gearbox. It's one way just to fix everything, is just to put automatic gearbox, the new model. I don't remember now the number, the BMW automatic gearbox, the one you have just an electronic shifter, so that will fix all your problems. But then you have to rewrite the software on your ECU, unless you take the engine and the gearbox and the ECU from the same car, and that's, you just need to buy an X3, BMW X3, basically. That's another issue. Clutch. Make sure that you have what is written on your documents, because when I bought the BMW that I used as a donor, on the documents it said 184 horsepower, something like that. Yeah, it was actually 193. I guess that meant that there is a slight difference in the size of the crankshaft or whatever, because we were working on the assumption the engine is 184 horsepower and all the clutch kits were done accordingly, and I kept having troubles with it until we discovered this, and now it's okay, and hopefully won't create any more problems. But out of all the time my car spent in the workshop, I think half of it was for the clutch. It was really annoying, because other cars that had the same swap done, they were running already without any issues for a year or so or something, and mine was always limping back to the workshop. The last time actually after we discovered this, and that's another, choose your providers carefully, research them before, because we ordered the clutch kit from a place here. Some guys were, actually this is what they do all the time, but I don't know, I guess they were drunk or bored or whatever that day when they did mine, because they sent it back. We installed it. I was able to drive like 20 kilometers, and then the car won't, I mean, it was going into gear, but it was not going anywhere. We took it back to the shop and discovered that all the Kevlar, all the small tiles on the clutch disc fell down because of the rivets that they were using. So then again, we found some other place and fixed it. So make sure that you know where your parts are coming from. That's why I'm saying that if you can find some company online that is selling complete kits, just make the effort, raise the money, buy it from there, especially if they're verified. If you're buying it from, I don't know, this street corner workshop, you may end up with more troubles. But if you're thinking it through, and if you're doing everything right, just start from the bottom. You don't start building your house with the roof. Yeah, we start with the foundation. So it's the same with the car. Make sure the bodywork, the body is okay, and then you start doing everything else. And once you start doing that, just be prepared. You need time and you need a lot of money. You cannot, or you can, of course, but the result will be accordingly. You cannot do something good with a little money, with very little money. Maybe if you are willing to do the work yourself, but then it will take you twice as much time probably, unless you are, a mechanic, or if you have everything you need and you can do it at home and you really know what you're doing, then go ahead, good luck. But otherwise, just don't cheap out. Pay the money, do the job, and then you can enjoy your ride. And that's about it. My advice on the swap. Was it worth it? Wait 4 years for mine to get to this stage? Well, yes. It was. And I hope I will not have any more problems with it. And I hope that I'll be able to do more POV driving videos with it, going up hills, down hills, or in sceneries like that, because this is why I wanted this car, so I can go into places like this to take photos. That's my passion.